The Watcher's discovery. Commander Zeph Corvain pressed his scaled palm against the cool metal of the observation deck's viewing portal. 400 years his people had maintained this hidden station in the asteroid belt, watching the small blue world that orbited the yellow star. 4 centuries of careful observation, detailed reports, and growing understanding of the species that called themselves humans. The Nexari had discovered Earth during their Great Expansion period, when their civilization was mapping every system within 1,000 light-years of their homeworld. Earth had been catalogued as a developing world, its inhabitants primitive but showing potential. The decision was made to observe and study, to learn from this young species before making contact. It was the Nexari way to understand before they revealed themselves. Zeph had spent the last 50 years of his life on this station, rising through the ranks from junior observer to commander. He knew every detail of human development, from their first radio signals to their recent ventures into space. The humans were fascinating in their complexity, chaotic yet organized, violent yet capable of great compassion. They reminded him of his own people's ancient past. Commander called tech specialist Rin from her workstation across the chamber. Her voice carried an unusual tension that made Zeph turn immediately. Rin was young for a Nexari, barely 2 centuries old, but she had an exceptional talent for pattern recognition that had earned her a place on the observation team. "What is it, Rin?" Zeph approached her station, noting the multiple data streams flowing across her holographic displays. "I've been analyzing human construction activities over the past decade," she began, her fingers dancing over the interface to highlight specific data points. "Look at these patterns. Major construction projects in seemingly random locations across their planet. Desert regions, mountain ranges, ocean floors, even in polar ice." Zeph studied the marked locations on the rotating Earth model. At first glance, they did appear random. A facility in the Australian outback, another beneath the Sahara Desert, underwater installations off the coasts of various continents. But as he looked closer, something nagged at his mind. "Show me the timeline," he requested. Rin adjusted the display, and suddenly the pattern became clear. The construction projects weren't random at all. They were being built in a specific sequence, each one positioned at calculated distances from the others. The timeline showed a coordination that spanned multiple human governments and organizations. "This level of global cooperation is unprecedented for humans," Zeph muttered. "They can barely agree on trade policies, yet they're coordinating massive construction projects across political boundaries." "That's not the strangest part," Rin continued, pulling up another data stream. "The energy signatures from these sites are identical. Same power source, same emission patterns. It's as if they're all connected somehow." Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the control room of Project Lighthouse's central facility, buried 300 meters beneath the Nevada desert. The chamber was vast, filled with banks of quantum computers and communication arrays that hummed with barely contained energy. Technicians moved efficiently between workstations, their faces lit by the glow of holographic displays showing data from installations around the globe. "Status report," Sarah called out to her team. "Network integrity at 98%, reported her lead engineer. "All 37 sites are online and synchronized. We're ready for the next phase." Sarah nodded, her mind racing through the calculations she had memorized years ago. Project Lighthouse had been her life's work, born from a discovery her grandfather had made in 1952. Radio telescope data that showed artificial patterns in cosmic background radiation, patterns that suggested an artificial origin, patterns that had been watching Earth for centuries. The project had begun as a small government initiative, but as the evidence mounted, it had grown into something unprecedented in human history. A secret collaboration between every major nation on Earth, united by the knowledge that they were not alone, and that something had been observing them for generations. General Marcus Stone entered the control room, his weathered face bearing the weight of command. At 65, he had dedicated his entire military career to Project Lighthouse, rising from a junior intelligence officer to the program's director. Dr. Chen, are we ready to proceed with the transmission? He asked. Sarah checked her readings one final time. All systems are green, General. The network has enough power to send a focused signal to the coordinates we've identified. If our calculations are correct, we'll reach the observation post in approximately 14 minutes. And if we're wrong, Sarah met his gaze steadily. Then we've just announced to the universe that Earth is ready to join the galactic community. Back on the Nexari station, alarms began to sound throughout the observation deck. Zeph rushed to the central command console as his team scrambled to identify the source of the disturbance. Commander, we're detecting a massive energy buildup on Earth's surface, reported Senior Analyst Keln. Multiple locations are showing synchronized power spikes. Show me, Zeph ordered. The main display shifted to show Earth in real time, with bright points of light, marking the locations Rin had identified earlier. As they watched, the lights began to pulse in unison, growing brighter with each pulse. They're charging something, Rin whispered. All those facilities, they're part of one massive system. Energy levels are off the charts, Keln added, his voice tight with concern. This is beyond anything we've seen from their civilization. Where did they get this technology? Zeph felt a chill run down his spine. The Nexari had strict protocols about interfering with developing civilizations. They observed, they studied, but they never made contact until a species achieved certain technological milestones. Humans were still decades, perhaps centuries, away from those milestones, or so they had believed. Could they have detected our observation probes? Rin asked quietly. Before Zeph could answer, the station's communication array activated on its own. A clear, strong signal was being received on frequencies the Nexari had never shared with any other species. The message was brief, transmitted in perfect Nexari. To our patient observers, we know you are there. We have known for some time. We wish to talk. The observation deck fell silent. 400 years of secret observation had just ended with 7 simple sentences in their own language. How is this possible? Keln breathed. Zeph stared at the communication display, his mind reeling. Humans weren't supposed to know about them. Humans weren't supposed to speak Nexari. Humans weren't supposed to have the technology to send a targeted transmission across the solar system. Sir, Rin's voice was barely a whisper. I'm detecting movement from Earth. They're launching something. On the tactical display, a small craft had separated from one of the orbital platforms the humans called the International Space Station. But this wasn't one of their typical shuttles. It was sleek, advanced, and moving with purpose toward their location. Impossible, Zeph muttered. Our station is cloaked. Even their most advanced sensors shouldn't be able to detect us. Commander, Keln interrupted. The craft is transmitting a message. Audio only. Put it through. A female voice filled the chamber, speaking in accented but clear Nexari. Nexari Observation Station. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth's Project Lighthouse. We request permission to dock and initiate formal first contact protocols. We have much to discuss. Dr. Chen sat in the pilot's seat of humanity's most advanced spacecraft, a vessel that had been built using principles reverse-engineered from debris collected over decades. The Nexari weren't the only ones who had been watching and learning. Lighthouse Control, this is Chen. I'm approaching the target coordinates. The station should be visible on sensors now. General Stone's voice crackled through the comm system. Confirmed, Sarah. We're tracking your approach. Remember, this is the moment we've been preparing for. Everything depends on the next few hours. Sarah smiled grimly as the Nexari station began to shimmer into visibility, its cloaking field deactivating. It was massive, far larger than their estimates had suggested. Clearly, the aliens had been taking their observation duties seriously. It's beautiful, she whispered, then keyed her microphone. Nexari station. This is Dr. Chen. I'm detecting your docking bay opening. Thank you for the invitation. On the station, Commander Zeph watched the human craft approach with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The vessel was clearly of human manufacture, but it incorporated technologies that humans shouldn't have possessed. Fusion drives, gravitational field generators, even what appeared to be a basic shield system. How long have they known? Rin asked. Given the sophistication of their approach, I'd estimate they've been aware of our presence for at least 50 Earth years, Zeph replied. Possibly longer. The human craft settled into the docking bay with practiced ease. Through the transparent aluminum viewports, they could see a single occupant removing what appeared to be a breathing apparatus and checking readings on a handheld device. She's testing our atmosphere, observed Keln. But how does she know it's compatible? She's testing our atmosphere, observed Keln. But how does she know it's compatible? Zeph was beginning to understand the scope of what they were dealing with, because they've been studying us as carefully as we've been studying them. Dr. Chen stepped out of her craft and into the Nexari station. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth normal, and the air had a metallic tang, but it was breathable. Her bioscanner confirmed that the atmospheric mix was safe for extended exposure. The docking bay doors opened, and 3 figures entered. They were tall, averaging about 7 feet in height, with scaled skin that shifted between green and blue in the artificial light. Their faces were elongated, with large eyes that held intelligence and caution in equal measure. The center figure stepped forward and spoke in heavily accented English. Dr. Chen, I am Commander Zeph Corvain. I must confess, this is not how we expected first contact to proceed. Sarah smiled and replied in Nexari. Nor we, Commander. But sometimes the best plans are the ones that adapt to circumstances. Zeph's expression shifted to surprise and something that might have been respect. Your pronunciation is excellent. How long have you been learning our language? My grandfather began the work in 1962, Sarah replied, switching back to English for the benefit of her hosts, who she suspected understood it better than they spoke it. We've had plenty of time to study the linguistic patterns in your observation signals. You've been monitoring our communications. Rin stepped forward, her young face showing clear amazement. In the same way you've been monitoring ours, Sarah confirmed. The difference is, we knew you were there. Commander Zeph led Sarah through the corridors of the observation station, past chambers filled with monitoring equipment and data analysis centers. The walls were lined with screens showing different aspects of Earth life, from major cities to remote wilderness areas. This is impressive, Sarah said, genuinely awed by the scope of the operation. 4 centuries of continuous observation. Your people have incredible patience. It is our way, Zeph replied. We believe in understanding before acting. Perhaps we should have acted sooner. They entered a large conference chamber where additional Nexari personnel had gathered. Sarah counted 12 individuals, representing what she assumed was the senior staff of the station. Before we proceed, Zeph said, I must ask directly, how long has your species known of our presence? Sarah took a seat at the offered chair, which had been quickly adjusted for human proportions. The first definitive proof came in 1952, but we suspect some of our ancient astronomers may have detected anomalies much earlier. Radio telescopes in the 1950s began picking up artificial patterns in cosmic background radiation. It took decades to decode enough of your communication protocols to understand what we were seeing, and you said nothing, made no attempt to contact us. We tried, Sarah admitted, several times, actually. But your cloaking and stealth technologies were far beyond our capabilities. We realized we needed to advance significantly before we could engage with you as equals. Rin leaned forward excitedly. The construction projects, the global coordination, the technological advances we've observed in the past decade. You were preparing for this moment. Project Lighthouse has been humanity's greatest endeavor, Sarah confirmed. Every major nation contributed resources, technology, and personnel. We've been developing our capabilities specifically for this moment. But why now? Asked Keln. Why reveal yourselves today? Sarah's expression grew serious. Because we've detected something else out there. Something that's been approaching our solar system for the past 5 years. We believe you may have detected it as well. The Nexari in the room exchanged glances. Commander Zeph's scaled features tightened with concern. The gravitational anomalies, he said slowly. We thought they were natural phenomena. They're not, Sarah replied firmly. Our deep space monitoring arrays have identified at least 3 artificial constructs moving toward our system. Large ones. We estimate they'll arrive within the next 18 months. And you believe they represent a threat. Sarah pulled out a data tablet and activated a holographic display. The image showed a 3-dimensional map of local space, with trajectory lines indicating the approaching objects. We don't know their intentions, she said, but given their size and the energy signatures we're detecting, we felt it was time to end the secrecy. Humanity and the Nexari may need to work together to face whatever's coming. The Human Gambit. The Joint Council chamber aboard the Nexari station had been hastily reconfigured to accommodate both species. Human portable life support units hummed quietly in the corners, while Nexari environmental controls adjusted to maintain optimal conditions for both groups. It had been 3 days since Dr. Sarah Chen's arrival, and the initial shock of first contact had given way to intense collaboration. Commander Zeph reviewed the data streams flowing across the central holographic display. Information from both civilizations was being shared at an unprecedented rate. Human deep space sensor data merged with Nexari gravitational analysis, creating a clearer picture of what was approaching their solar system. The lead construct is massive, reported Dr. Chen, manipulating the hologram to highlight the largest of the 3 approaching objects. Our estimates put it at roughly 15 kilometers in length, with a mass that defies conventional physics. Nexari analyst Kelm studied the readings with growing concern. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. This technology is far beyond both our civilizations. Tech specialist Rin had been working closely with Dr. Chen's team for the past 2 days, establishing communication links with Earth's Project Lighthouse facilities. The young Nexari's excitement about the collaboration was infectious, though tempered by the gravity of their situation. Dr. Chen, Rin began, I've been analyzing the communication protocols your people have developed. How did you manage to decode our language so thoroughly? Sarah smiled, remembering the countless hours her team had spent on the project. Pattern recognition and statistical analysis, mostly. Your people are remarkably consistent in your communication structures. Once we had enough data points, our quantum computers could begin building translation matrices. Quantum computers. Commander Zeph looked surprised. We didn't realize your technology had advanced to that level. There's a lot about human capabilities that might surprise you, Sarah replied. We've been very focused in our development priorities. General Stone's voice crackled through the communication system from Earth. Dr. Chen, we've completed the analysis of the Nexari sensor data you transmitted. Our findings are disturbing. The display shifted to show a new analysis, combining human and Nexari observations. The 3 approaching constructs weren't just large. They were moving in a coordinated formation, maintaining precise distances from each other despite traveling at significant fractions of light speed. They're not explorers, Dr. Chen said quietly. This is a fleet. Senior analyst Kelm pulled up additional data streams. Our long-range sensors have detected similar formations in 7 other star systems over the past 2 centuries. In each case, the local civilizations went silent shortly after the constructs arrived. The implications hung heavy in the air. Commander Zeph stood and began pacing, a habit Sarah had noticed when the Nexari was deep in thought. We need to understand what we're dealing with, Zeph said finally. Dr. Chen, how advanced are your defensive capabilities? Sarah hesitated. This was the moment she had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. General Stone, we need to show them the arsenal. Are you certain, Dr. Chen? Came the reply from Earth. Once we reveal the arsenal, there's no going back. The situation has moved beyond our original parameters, Sarah replied firmly. They need to see what we're capable of. The holographic display shifted again, now showing a cross-section of Earth's surface and the vast network of underground facilities that Project Lighthouse had constructed over the past decades. But the construction projects the Nexeri had observed were only the tip of the iceberg. "This is the arsenal," Sarah began, highlighting different sections of the network. 37 primary facilities, each one housing advanced defensive and offensive systems. The construction you observed was just the surface infrastructure. Rin stared at the display in amazement. "These facilities go down for kilometers. How long have you been building this?" "Continuously for the past 40 years, Sarah replied. "The moment we confirmed your presence, we began preparing for the possibility that you weren't the only ones out there." Commander Zeph studied the network diagram with growing respect. "The scale of this construction is extraordinary. Your species accomplished this while maintaining the appearance of normal societal development. Human beings are remarkably good at compartmentalization," Sarah said with a slight smile. "The majority of our population doesn't know about the arsenal. Those who do are sworn to absolute secrecy." "Show us the weapons," Keln requested bluntly. Sarah looked to the communication system. "General Stone. Authorized. Show them Site 7. The display zoomed in on one of the arsenal facilities, revealing massive underground chambers filled with technology that made the Nexeri exchange startled glances. Particle beam arrays, gravitational field generators, and what appeared to be some form of exotic matter manipulation systems. "Impressive," Zeph admitted. "But where did you acquire this technology?" "This is far beyond what we've observed of human capabilities. That's the part that might surprise you most," Sarah replied. "We developed it ourselves. Once we knew we weren't alone, human scientific advancement accelerated exponentially. When a species knows it's being watched, it has a tendency to focus its efforts." Dr. Chen stood and activated a new display, showing a timeline of human technological development over the past century. The curve was dramatic, with a sharp acceleration beginning in the 1950s. "The knowledge that we weren't alone changed everything," she explained. Governments that had been rivals for centuries began collaborating. Scientists who had been working in isolation started sharing data. Military leaders who had been planning for terrestrial conflicts began thinking about interstellar defense. "You united your entire species based on the possibility of external threat?" Rin asked, clearly fascinated. "Not united," Sarah corrected. "Focused. We still have our differences, our conflicts, our competing interests. But when it comes to the defense of Earth, we speak with one voice." Commander Zeph was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications of what he was seeing. The humans hadn't just been passively aware of Nexeri observation. They had been actively preparing for contact and potential conflict for decades. "Dr. Chen," he said finally, "what exactly are you proposing?" "An alliance," Sarah replied without hesitation. "Your people have 4 centuries of experience with interstellar civilization. Our people have spent the past 40 years preparing for a war we hoped would never come. Together, we might have a chance against whatever's approaching. And if we refuse," Sarah's expression grew serious, "then we'll face the threat alone. But I don't think that's what you want. Your people have invested too much in observing and understanding humanity to simply abandon us now." The Nexeri in the room exchanged glances. Engaging in what Sarah had learned was a form of rapid subvocal communication. After several minutes, Commander Zeph turned back to her. "What would this alliance entail?" "Full technology sharing," Sarah replied immediately. "Your stealth and sensor capabilities combined with our defensive systems. Joint command structure for system defense. Coordinated response to the incoming threat." "You're asking us to abandon 4 centuries of protocol," Keln pointed out. "I'm asking you to adapt to a situation that makes your protocols irrelevant," Sarah countered. "Those constructs will be here in 18 months. When they arrive, it won't matter whether first contact followed proper procedures. What will matter is whether we can work together to survive." Ren had been studying the arsenal data with growing excitement. "Dr. Chen, Some of these weapon systems are theoretical constructs we've never seen implemented. How did you solve the exotic matter containment problem? Trial and error, Sarah admitted. We lost 2 facilities in the early testing phases. But human engineers have a tendency to learn from failure rather than be discouraged by it. And your personnel? Commander Zeph asked. How many humans are aware of the true scope of the arsenal? Approximately 50,000 people worldwide have full knowledge of the project, Sarah replied. Another 200,000 have partial knowledge. The rest of our population knows only that significant resources are being devoted to deep infrastructure projects. Remarkable, Zeph murmured. Your species maintained operational security on this scale for 4 decades. When survival is at stake, humans can be remarkably disciplined, Sarah said. We may appear chaotic to external observers, but we're capable of extraordinary coordination when the situation demands it. The communication system crackled again with General Stone's voice. Dr. Chen, we're detecting new activity from the approaching constructs. They appear to be decelerating. All eyes turned to the display as new data flowed in from Earth's deep space monitoring network. The 3 massive objects were indeed slowing their approach, but their formation remained intact. Time to arrival, Commander Zeph asked. At current deceleration rates, approximately 14 months, came the reply from Earth. They're giving us time to prepare, Sarah observed. Either they're confident in their superiority, or they want to assess our defensive capabilities before engaging. Reconnaissance, Kelm concluded. They're gathering intelligence before their main force arrives. Commander Zeph made his decision. Dr. Chen, I'm prepared to recommend to the Nexari High Council that we enter into a formal alliance with humanity. However, I need assurance that your species can maintain unity in the face of what's coming. Sarah nodded solemnly. General Stone, please initiate Revelation Protocol. Confirmed. Revelation Protocol is active. Across Earth, previously hidden facilities began revealing themselves. In major cities around the world, massive structures rose from underground installations. The arsenal was no longer a secret. Your population is seeing this, Zeph asked. As we speak, Sarah confirmed. News networks are broadcasting the emergence of the arsenal facilities. Government leaders are making simultaneous announcements about the alien threat and the defensive preparations that have been underway for decades. How do you think they'll react? Sarah smiled grimly. Humans have a remarkable capacity for adaptation. There will be fear, certainly, confusion, anger at the secrecy, but ultimately, they'll rally to the defense of their world. It's what we do. The next several hours passed in a blur of activity. Communication channels between Earth and the Nexari station buzzed with constant data transfers. Human and Nexari engineers worked side by side, sharing technological specifications and tactical analyses. Dr. Chen found herself working closely with Rin, the young Nexari's enthusiasm for the collaboration proving infectious. Together, they developed integration protocols for combining Nexari stealth technology with human defensive systems. Your people's approach to problem-solving is fascinating, Rin commented as they reviewed the latest technical specifications. Where we tend to seek elegant theoretical solutions, humans seem to prefer practical implementations. We're a species that learns by doing, Sarah replied. Sometimes our solutions aren't the most sophisticated, but they tend to be robust and adaptable. Commander Zeph joined them at their workstation, carrying a data pad containing the latest intelligence reports. The probe we've been tracking has changed course. It's heading directly for Earth. Arrival time, Sarah asked. Approximately 6 hours at current velocity, Zeph replied. Dr. Chen, this may be our first real test of human Nexari cooperation. Sarah activated her communication link to Earth. General Stone, we have an incoming contact. Small probe, possibly hostile intent. Can we coordinate an intercept? Negative on interception, came the reply. But we can give it a proper welcome. Arsenal Site 12 is coming online. On the display, they watched as one of the most advanced arsenal facilities activated its defensive systems. A brilliant beam of coherent energy lanced out from Earth's surface, striking the approaching probe with pinpoint accuracy. The probe's destruction was instantaneous and spectacular, creating a brief nova of light as its exotic matter containment systems failed catastrophically. "Impressive," Zeph observed. "Your targeting systems are remarkably accurate." "We've had plenty of time to practice," Sarah replied. "And now the real test begins. They know we're here, they know we're prepared, and they know we can fight." In the depths of space, aboard the lid construct of the approaching fleet, ancient sensors registered the destruction of their reconnaissance probe. For the first time in millennia, they had encountered organized resistance. The machine intelligence that controlled the fleet paused in its calculations. This system was supposed to be simple, inhabited by primitive biological entities that would pose no significant threat. Instead, it had detected evidence of two distinct technological civilizations working in coordination. New orders flowed through the fleet's communication networks. The arrival timeline was accelerated. What had been planned as a methodical consumption of resources would now be a combat operation. Back on the Nexari station, alarms began sounding as long-range sensors detected the change in the fleet's approach pattern. "They're accelerating," Keln reported. "Time to arrival now estimated at 8 months. So much for having time to prepare," Sarah muttered. "General Stone, we need to implement the full integration protocol immediately." "Agreed. All Arsenal facilities are now operating under Joint Command. Commander Zeph, we're transmitting command authorization codes to your station." For the first time in 4 centuries, the Nexari found themselves partners rather than observers in the affairs of a developing world. Commander Zeph accepted the authorization codes and formally activated the alliance. "Dr. Chen," he said solemnly, "your species has achieved something remarkable. You've united 2 civilizations in the face of an unknown threat. Now let's see if that unity is strong enough to protect both our worlds." Sarah looked around the chamber at the faces of both species, human and Nexari, working together with desperate urgency. They had 8 months to prepare for a war that could determine the fate of both civilizations. "Commander," she replied, "I think you're about to discover what humans are really capable of when we're fighting for our survival." As the joint defense preparations began in earnest, neither species could have imagined that their alliance would become the foundation for something far greater than either had dreamed possible. The approaching threat had intended to find weak, divided worlds ripe for conquest. Instead, they would find 2 species that had learned the most powerful lesson in the universe: that cooperation born from mutual respect and shared danger could overcome any obstacle. The war was coming, but Earth and its new allies would be ready.